Appropriate gesture. When it comes time, I'll have you come to the podium.
Oh,
And then I'll
okay.
have you raise your right
Can you hear us
hand
all right?
and just ask you will read this.
Okay.
Yep. And then out loud, and I'm gonna be standing there, and then we're all set.
We're all just.
Yep. Not notarized, but I'll seal it.
Doug, are you able to,
In case you want one.
hear and see and everything?
I can hear you and see you. Yep.
So we can do the same, so we'll just wait a few minutes. And, yes. Wait till 5:30.
Is Doug the attorney?
No, he's a member of the Variance Board. He had some work stuff come up, so anyway, he's here on Zoom. But Nick, who's our attorney, one of the attorneys, should be here on Zoom as well.
Okay. Sean, quick question.
Yeah.
Should you get, did you get Kathleen's letter? All this? I realized that she might have sent it to me and not you. I could just read it, but,
Yeah, that might.
okay,
I'll search.
Wonder-
and see, but.
could I possibly get somebody to print something one page? I went to the library thinking they were open until 5.
You will have, well, I gotta be
Is that
secretary
enough?
for the meeting and I gotta
Right.
restart my computer, everything, because we're closed for business.
I'll
So
read
I'm
it.
sorry.
I'll read it. That's okay. Thank you.
If you
Is your
want it,
computer-
if you want,
Yeah,
if
you
you want
still got
to, if you can email it to me, I can print it from here.
Great. Thank you. I'm sorry about that.
Doug, I'm just gonna mute us until the meeting starts, so I'll unmute and let you know when we're already in here.
Okay.
Doug, we can start momentarily. John should be here in just a few moments. He
Okay.
told me.
It's a little,
Hey, guys.
my goodness.
Yeah, it's been a bit. We had our meeting in a long time.
I think I was probably the last one too.
All right, perfect. I think we have our quorum. So, Doug, I think whenever you're ready, we can begin.
Okay. This is the December 12th, 2024 regular meeting of the Idaho Springs Variance Board of Adjustments. Can I get a roll call, Wonder?
John Hatch,
Here,
Drew Van Dorn,
Here.
Chair Doug Smith.
Here. Or present. And so I wonder, do you swear in, Drew?
I do.
Okay.
Got your glasses, and when they're on, it's wrong, and when they're off, it's wrong too. There you go. I think I might need new glasses.
All right, please raise your right hand.
I, Drew Van Doren, do solemnly declare and affirm that I will support and uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution and laws of the state of Colorado, and the laws and ordinances of the city of Idaho Springs, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of Variance Board member for the city of Idaho Springs, upon which I'm about to enter.
Thank you.
Re-enter.
Thanks for your time.
Seriously.
This one not good. That can be pretty easy copy. That's that.
Brave. We're gonna fall down some stairs. We'll see, and I can talk.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from, well, actually, we have two previous minutes to approve, but the first one, motion to approve the February 15th, 2023 Variance Board meeting.
sure, motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second, sure.
Then do we need to do a roll call, Wonder, on both of these?
You can do roll call or what's called voice vote, which you just raise your right hand and say aye. Up to you.
Okay. Aye.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Passes.
Thank you.
Okay, the second approval of minutes is from the March 15th, 2023 Variance Board meeting. Aye.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you.
Okay, second to approve.
Okay. And now, all in favor?
Yep,
Aye.
Aye.
excellent. Thank you.
All right. There is 3 public hearings to be held tonight. The first will be 1334 Virginia Street, requesting a variance for the front setback to allow for a carport deck at the 1334 Virginia Street location. We'll start at 5:38 p.m. And do we have a staff report?
Yes, we do. Are we good to roll into that? Okay, perfect. All right, so we will start with brief staff report that I've prepared.
Hey, Dylan, can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
I think we went over the conflict of interest agenda item. So just for the record, at least for this hearing, do we have any conflicts of interest?
No,
All right, we're good then.
Sorry, Nick, that's a new one on my little sheet. So
All good. And then after this hearing, we can ask again for the other two, but let's just contain it to just this one. But we're fine to go ahead.
okay.
Okay, perfect. So, as mentioned, I have a brief staff report and then we'll pause for any questions from me. And then we have the applicant, Chad here tonight to, and I'm not sure if you're welcome to say anything you like, and then if there's any questions for the applicant, of course. So this first item is a request for a variance to the front setback to allow for a carport deck structure to be built. And since we have Doug online, I might just,
I have it pulled up.
oh yeah, perfect. So property is zone residential 1. It's at the intersection of Virginia Street and 14th Avenue. There's a single family home there dating back to the late 1800s. And it's a relatively small as every lot in the city, really, lot that with the house taking up a large portion of the space. There's no driveway on site and there's no real covered parking or anything like that. So you only have on-street parking, which a lot of us have in town, but certainly if you have the ability to have off-street parking, that's very nice. So the proposal would be to build a carport structure that will provide covered parking on site. The parking itself doesn't require the variance. You're allowed to do the excavation work to create parking as long as it's uncovered. The variance specifically is for the structure itself to encroach into the front setback. And that encroachment would be 12 feet to result in a 3-foot front yard setback. The other thing that this would cause is to have a living space on top of the deck that can be used for outdoor space because the parking essentially eliminates the majority of the front yard. Given that, I'll just mention, as with any variance application, there's 6 criteria for approval, and I'll just briefly go into all of them. It's all included in the staff report, so I'll just touch briefly. The first is about hardship and whether an applicant would suffer hardship if these regulations were strictly adhered to. Staff does believe that hardship could be experienced. There's really 2 reasons for that. One, of course, we do have inclement winter weather. And so if you have the ability to build covered parking, that is certainly a benefit to folks that without having it, you have to park on the street, you have to deal with the inclement weather and the like. It also will reduce potential conflicts with plow trucks, other vehicles, fire, emergency services, and the like. The second thing is that technically the municipal code requires off-street parking with new residential developments. Obviously, this was built well before those regulations were in place, but a benefit of allowing a variance for covered secure parking would be bringing it into compliance with current code. So staff believes generally that this is met. The second is there is no reasonable design alternatives. We've assessed this. There, with the amount of space in the front yard, there's no way you could build this deck carport structure and not need setback just because of the length of the vehicles and the length of required parking space. The next one is whether variance results from intentional, reckless, or negligent actions from the applicant. Staff doesn't believe that to be the case. This home's been there for quite a long time. If it was being built today, you could have arranged it differently to allow for a driveway as well or a garage, but that's simply not the case here because it's been in place for 130, 140 years, something like that. The next is reasonable protections afforded to adjacent properties. Staff believes this is met. We received one public comment for the meeting from one of the neighbors who's a few houses down. They're in support of this project. They think it's good to reduce the amount of on-street parking and free that up a little bit. So they called to say they were in support. That was Keith Buckley, just for the record. The fire authority and public works have reviewed this and believes that it's suitable to allow for maintenance and fire and EMS calls and the like. So the only potential impact, I guess, or changing condition from what's there now is that the proposed carport structure is about 5 feet taller than the existing retaining walls. The next is a talk about whether the variance is the minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of land or structure. Thought of reasonable use of the property was, I guess, up for debate with any variance. currently, like I said, there's no driveway on site, there's no covered parking in the area. And we have, as a variance board, previously approved several similar variances to allow for similar items. There was one in 2022 for a shed to allow for secure storage. There was a variance in 22 also for a garage to allow for indoor parking of vehicles. And there was also in 2020, a variance approved a different property to allow an expanded front porch. In this case, that's somewhat similar. You know, you're increasing the amount of outdoor living space, and while we're not necessarily creating precedent by approving any individual variance, it does show that in the past we've thought that these types of uses are reasonable to consider with a variance. And then the granting the variance appears to observe the spirit of the chapter, secure the public safety and welfare, and ensure that substantial justice is done. So with all that, like I said, we didn't receive any negative comments about the proposal. Fire Authority and Public Works are in support. So given all of that, I'm recommending approval of this variance to allow for a 3-foot front setback for the carport deck structure at the subject property. That's it for me. So any questions?
All right. Yeah, thank you, Dylan. Is the applicant present?
Yep.
Yeah, I am.
Do they wish to make a statement? Wonder, do you want to swear him in?
Sure do.
Okay.
Say your name and address for the record.
Chad Miller, 1334 Virginia Street, Idaho Springs.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just that if I could answer any questions that haven't been answered yet so far, I'd be more than willing to do so.
Your neighbors on both sides are obviously aware that you're
Yes.
making changes. They're fine.
They're fine, they're fine with it. We're actually gonna be reinforcing the retaining wall to the west, which was stated in the proposition to help build up, to support the dirt on that side, but we're leaving a 5-foot, I guess, I don't have a 5-foot setback on that side, which is up to code there, and then 5 feet on the east side as well. So.
I have no objections.
Neither do I. Thank you guys.
Do we have any public comments?
Let's see. I don't have anyone on the computer, and
no one has signed up.
So
Okay. And then does any of the members have any questions for the applicant?
Nope, I'm all set.
All right, then I propose to close this hearing at 5:47, and then I ask commissioners to make a motion to approve the 1334 Virginia Street request for a variance to the front setback to allow for a carport deck at the 1334 Virginia Street location. Can I get a roll call with the?
Doug, did you make that motion?
Did you move?
Yes,
Or-
I moved with the emotion. Now I just need a roll call with the other commissioners, whether they.
We need a second.
I'll second that and then. we
Okay.
can-
All right. John Hatch,
Yes, I also motion to approve.
Drew Van Dorn,
In favor.
Chair Doug Smith.
Approve.
Thank you.
perfect. Okay, so
Thank you, guys.
Cool, congrats, good luck.
It looks like a big project.
There's a lot of dirt getting moved.
There's a lot of dirt.
A lot of landscaping to say goodbye to.
All right, our second variance for tonight is 1702 Virginia Street. They request for a west side setback variance for an existing shed at the 1702 Virginia Street location. We'll start this variance at 5:48 p.m. And Dylan, can you do your staff report?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Doug. I will start off just with a very brief description of the history and all that. So the request is for a variance to the side setback, as was mentioned, to allow for a 120 square foot existing shed to be placed approximately 1 foot from the western side setback. This existing shed was placed prior to the current property owner purchasing the property and came to our attention because it was found while the adjacent property owner, which is Blue Spruce, it's the Habitat for Humanity project on Virginia Street, discovered that the shed in question slightly encroaches on that western property line. And, so this is an opportunity to address that and remove the encroachment. Like I said, the shed has been there since before the current property owner purchased the property, and sheds don't, if they're 120 square feet or less, don't require a permit. So, they wouldn't, it's not something that was built without permits or anything like that, but it doesn't meet our setback requirements, which is a 5-foot side setback for accessory structures. If this variance were denied, then they'd be required to find a location that is setback compliant, which would be 5 feet from side setbacks, 20 feet from front and rear setbacks. And just based on the size of the site, based on the current location of improvements and based on retaining walls and things like that, there likely is not a spot where this shed could be placed. And so the only other recourse would be to remove the shed altogether from the property. And so given that, I'll just jump into the criteria for approval. The first is that the applicant suffered hardship. I think that kind of plays into what I just mentioned, is the two options, if this variance were denied, is to find another location, which likely is infeasible just based on looking at the site and trying to figure out where a 120 square foot shed would go, or again, it would have to be moved to a new property. I guess it would have to be demolished or moved in one way or the other. Given that the current property owner did not cause this issue, I suppose, and given that we do tend to have a lack of storage and of equipment and materials and things like that, given our winter climate and all that, it having to have this removed appears like it could be a hardship. That also gets into whether there's reasonable design alternatives. Like I said, I did an assessment to determine whether I thought there would be an alternative location that would work, and any location that would be compliant with all the setbacks likely would require a different improvement to be removed, whether it be a fence, whether it be a small patio, something like that. And so, so in order to keep the shed, either you'd have to get this variance, which is requested, or probably do other work to the property to find a location that would work. The need for the variance does not result from intentional, reckless, or negligent actions of the applicant. This would be, like I said, the shed's been in place since before the applicant purchased the property. I was able to confirm that. So the applicant had no intentional, reckless, or negligent actions. Suppose you could make the argument that the previous owner placed it in a location that wasn't correct, which could be seen as a negligent action, I suppose, but the applicant itself had no reckless or negligent actions. Reasonable protections are afforded adjacent property. We, Doug, you don't have this in front of you, but we received a letter today from Blue Spruce Habitat for Humanity, who owns the property adjacent, in support of this variance. We'll include that in the packet, updated for future, but we have that letter in front of John and Drew here. And so Blue Spruce is in support of the variance as long as the shed maintains at least a 6-foot setback from the property line. So that
6 inch.
that is what it says in the letter. The request
6
was
feet?
6 inches.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, I think you just said.
You just misspoke. That's
Okay.
sure. Yeah, 6 inches. Sorry about that. So anyway, that seems to suggest that the property owner who would potentially be impacted is in support of the variance. The variance is the minimum variance that would make possible reasonable use of the land or structure. The This does appear to be the minimum variance that would allow the shed to remain because of existing fences and other improvements. This is about as far as you can shift it so that it's fully on the property while not causing anything else to have to be removed. And finally, the granting of the variance will observe the spirit of this chapter. I believe that to be true, secure the public safety and welfare, and ensure that substantial justice is done. So, just as a last note, there have been several sheds approved in the past via variance. The most recent was in 2022. So again, that doesn't necessarily establish any precedents that we would have to approve this if this didn't meet the criteria, but as in that case, it does appear that allowing this shed to be 1 foot from the property line does appear to meet the criteria. So that is all I have, and I'm happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you, Dylan. Is the applicant present?
I am.
Yes.
You, Wonder, you want to swear him in?
Well, please state your name and address for the record.
Michael Kastenbaum, 1702 Virginia Street.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I think.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
So
I mean,
the shed
I
is,
think Dylan, you covered it.
the shed is yours?
Yes.
Yes. So the shed is not actually on Blue Spruce property,
Well,
or the setback is just less than it should be?
so at the moment, the shed encroaches on the property.
By
line.
6 inches.
Yeah, and they want to, or I guess to remedy that issue, the variance proposes to move the shed fully onto Michael's property, but it still wouldn't meet setbacks. So regardless,
So you're okay moving the shed completely onto your property,
Yeah,
but we're waiving the setback and Blue Spruce doesn't care?
well said.
Okay, then I'm in favor.
So
As
how
long
did
as-
this come about? As far as
so-
the variance, asking for the variance, was this a code violation or was this a complaint from the neighbor?
Yes, we received a complaint from the neighbor stating, hey, we noticed this encroachment and would like it, rectified, have the shed moved. And so we notified Michael and said, hey, here's the survey that shows it, we would like to see the shed moved. Here's the 5 foot setback requirement. And so that, because of the issues with meeting a 5 foot setback because of the lot, this is how we've gotten to requesting this variance to remedy the encroachment issue while still allowing the shed to remain.
Okay,
And a
and
permit,
go ahead, Drew.
because the shed's under 120 feet.
Right.
So you
yeah.
just accidentally put it in the wrong place.
I didn't put it there.
Oh, it was there when you bought it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
pretty-
better still.
It's been there for like a long time.
Yeah, so we put
Apparently.
that
And I didn't
clarification.
know, I didn't know. I
I'm
never
still
knew any
in-
of this.
I'm still in favor, knowing that, as they've been developing the Blue Spruce property, that's when the lines probably became more evident, so. And it doesn't look like it's gonna cause any grief to the neighbors.
Right.
Okay, and then by moving and giving the variance, if moving the shed onto the property, is that gonna cause any egress or life safety issues as far as fire department or anything like that? Do we know?
It should not. I've sent this out as a referral to the fire authority and they did not have any comments.
Okay,
It won't. If you, I don't know if you can see, can you see where the shed is? I put some.
It looks like it'll just snug it up to
Yeah.
your fence,
Yeah.
that's all.
That's exactly what.
And the I guess per building code, not that the Blue Spruce project to the west is far enough away that there wouldn't be any, even if there were theoretically like a fire wall, fire rating requirement, it's far enough away that that wouldn't apply.
okay. Is there any public comments?
Check the sites.
Nobody signed it.
No one is signed in and doesn't appear to have anyone on the Zoom either, unless there's anyone in.
Okay. Is
Can I
that
move,
the applicant?
sorry. Go ahead then.
Is the applicant finished with everything?
Yes.
The comments? Okay.
Thank you.
All
Can I
right.
move the variance request for 1702 Virginia Street for a west side setback for an existing shed at 1702 Virginia Street with the parameters explained by Dylan? You approve?
Oh,
No.
You gotta
But
close the
We gotta
hearing
close it
first.
out, Drew. So it's 5:59 PM. We'll close this out. Now you can make your motion, Drew.
Now I move.
And can I actually interrupt you? We
Sure.
didn't get it on the record this time around, but are there any conflicts of interest for this variance request for anyone?
No.
Then you're good to go.
Now I'll move that the variance request for 1702 Virginia Street for a west side setback variance for an existing shed at 1702 Virginia Street to be moved off of the property next door be approved.
I second.
You want to call for a roll call, Wonder?
John Hatch,
Approve.
Drew Van Dorn, Chair Doug Smith.
Approve.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And then we have the third variance is 2616 Minor Street, request for a side setback variance and drive lane width variance to allow a commercial structure containing a garage and unstaffed hotel at the 2616 Minor Street location.
And can we get the conflict of interest?
Do we have any
question up there?
conflicts of interest before we start?
No.
No.
Okay, then I'll start this at 6 PM. And Dylan, can we get the staff report?
Yep, thank you, Doug. So this project is located at 2616 Minor Street. This is zone commercial 2, which does allow for unstaffed hotels. It also allows for commercial auto service type use, which would be like a commercial maintenance garage. It also is located within our East End overlay district, which is kind of an interesting district that allows for slightly modified requirements and allowances and things like that to allow and kind of promote redevelopment that has a very streetscape oriented feel. And so that creates some interesting challenges on some of these lots that are quite narrow and have frontage both to Colorado Boulevard and Minor Street. So the requested uses on site, broadly speaking, there's a lot of nuance to it. I'm simplifying it much more than I think what the concept deserves, I suppose. But essentially, I classify it as a commercial maintenance garage, largely for motorcycles and like off-road vehicles and the like, but also would be able to be used for cars and trucks and the like. And then also an unstaffed hotel, which is permitted per the code and essentially allows for a hotel use that doesn't have like a check-in desk, sort of check-in counter with on-site maintenance at all times or staff, and you check in with a code, or maybe you check in with a staff member, but anyway, it's kind of a new use for the code. In order to build this structure, the applicants who are here tonight are requesting a 2-foot setback to the west, well, a 3-foot western side setback where it's required to be 5, so a 2-foot reduction. Then also a reduction in the drive lane width necessary for access driveways from 23 feet to 20 feet. So reduction of 3 feet in the drive lane. And this would allow this building with those uses to be built on site. And I'll let the applicant speak to any kind of the concept more broadly if you wish, but obviously right now we're just reviewing whether the variance should be approved. With all of that, I do also want to note East End has some interesting requirements, like I mentioned. It has a maximum front setback of 10 feet, so you can't, so per the East End overlay district, you're not supposed to put your buildings farther away in order to promote an activated streetscape that doesn't just have like a parking lot in front. And so that creates some interesting challenges on this lot because the frontage width on Colorado Boulevard of this lot is only 43 feet. which with 2 5-foot setbacks on either side reduces the kind of buildable space, if you will, to 33 feet. And then when you also need to put in a drive lane in order to accommodate parking and ingress and egress to the site, reduces the buildable area even further. So with all of that, I will go into the criteria. The first, again, is hardship. Staff believes that the main area of hardship is that lot width of 43 feet. During the review period and referrals and back and forth with the applicants, we questioned whether it was this particular use and structure that would require a variance, or whether it's really the establishment of a commercial use in general that likely would require a variance. Because at the moment, there's just a residential single-family home on site fronting Minor Street. We've done some work to kind of assess, well, what could you situate on site and meet all the requirements? I looked at some of the other properties in the area, like Conrad's, the hot dog shop, and the Yards Tap House. And with under current code, in order to establish the use and build those structures and the parking and the drive lane, it's potentially would be quite difficult to fit a building like that on the site as well. So with that in mind, it does appear that the 43-foot width would potentially provide hardship for any sort of commercial structure you're building on site, unless it was something quite small. That would be the hardship discussion. You know, it's is there other uses you could build? Maybe, but as it stands, this kind of unclear if there is really another feasible use you could establish for commercial use. Getting into reasonable design alternatives that would reduce or eliminate the need for the variance. I don't know that, I think the applicants have done a good job of showing that in order to establish this suite of uses on site, a variance to the setback, a variance of some kind is likely required. The one potential option that you could theoretically reduce the variance would be if you reduce the drive lane further and then shifted the building slightly. We talked about that a little bit. The challenge with doing that, even though it's feasibly possible, is accessing the garage with a 20-foot width is already pretty tight. Reducing it even further would make it even more difficult to actually operate the garage use on site because of turning lanes and drive lane widths and things like that. Motorcycles, of course, would have no issue, but let's say someone comes in and wants to have a truck worked on, it's already going to be a tight fit. And so while it's theoretically possible to reduce the variance and not need a setback variance and only need a drive lane variance, this does a reasonable job of minimizing the variance while also allowing them to establish the use that they'd like to do on site. The third one, staff believes is pretty clearly met, that there's no intentional, reckless, or negligent actions on site. The single family home was built in the late 1800s before zoning regulations existed and before anyone sort of contemplated what uses might be in effect in 2024. So that appears to be met. The next is reasonable protections and whether they're afforded to adjacent properties. Staff believes that adjacent properties are afforded reasonable protections. Structures compliant with the front setback requirements, rear front setback requirements, east setback requirements. It's just that western 5-foot property line. It still is a 3-foot setback, which is the minimum requirement for building code to avoid the need for upgraded fire suppression materials. The adjacent property is a single family home, but the home is also situated on the back of the property. That was the consideration we had as well. You know, it's a garage use. Is there going to be noises? Is there going to be anything like that? We sent this out for public notice. They would have received the notice. We didn't receive any negative comments during the public notice period. And though I don't know if anyone's here tonight to provide public comments. So staff believes that reasonable protections are afforded to adjacent properties. The next question we've touched on already. The variance is the minimum necessary to make possible reasonable use of the land or structure. As I mentioned, it's a commercially zoned property. And so an owner would expect to be able to establish a commercial use on the property if they wish to do so. You know, it's, the East End Overlay District does potentially create some interesting challenges because they want a variety of mixed uses. They want that, they being the city council, the city, want that kind of streetscape feel that creates kind of like a pedestrian oriented aesthetic and whatnot, which for a use like this creates some challenges in design. And so, you know, like I said, while maybe there'd be another commercial use you could establish on the site that wouldn't need a variance for this particular use, this is about as tight and compact as you can make it while also allowing it to make reasonable use of that proposed structure. So with all of that, given those circumstances, it appears to be the minimal variance needed for this use, which, you know, is a permitted use on the property. To finally getting into the last discussion item, the granting of the variance will observe the spirit of the chapter, staff believes that's true, secure public safety and welfare, and ensure that substantial justice is done. I did refer this to Public Works, to Fire Authority, engineering, building, et cetera. None of them took issue with the proposal. If this is approved, the next step in the process is a final development plan, which gets reviewed from Planning Commission and Council. And so at that time, building and engineering and all that will also review for zoning compliance and every other aspect of the project. And so this is really step one. And but if approved, then they will have the right to build it with these modified setbacks and driveway widths. With all of that, like I said, you know, this one, in my opinion, was not quite as cut and dry as some of the previous ones from a criteria standpoint, but staff does believe that this meets the criteria to be approved for this 2-foot setback variance and 3-foot reduction in drive lane width, and as a result, recommends approval. That's it for me.
All right, thank you, Dylan. Is the applicant present?
Yep.
You want?
Your yes, please, Doug, thanks. Sorry, can you please state your name and address for the record?
Paul Runner, 2616 Minor Street.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
First, let me apologize. I am trying a beard for the first time and I'm hitting my homeless man phase. So I thought maybe it'd look a little better by the time I got here. So what I'm trying to do here is start a motorcycle maintenance club. So it's not going to be a garage open to the public. It's something you buy into. So it wouldn't have that many people parking around it. And I just want to get like-minded people. I'm a civil engineering designer. So I want to do physically what I do theoretically on a computer all day. Basically fix problems and work on motorcycles. It's something I like to do. I got a lot of friends who do this. Everything's costing a lot more nowadays. And learning more about your bike is something a lot of my bike friend riders want to do. And it kind of helps, gives you a little more security when you're out, especially on the long rides. Helping yourself out, helping other people out too. So basically on the ground floor would be a garage where I'll have certified mechanics, not myself just yet. And then on the second floor would be basically a clubhouse, coffee, tea, snacks, a deck, someplace where people can get together, have a breakfast before they go out for a ride, sit back, relax, maybe watch a game. And maybe or wait while their bike is getting worked on. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. Originally, we wanted to have the garage up against the house. So you had like a parking lot, so get the bikes off the street. But because of the variant, you guys wanted storefront properties. It kind of made this thing a little, you know, little touch, you know, it was hard to figure it out. So that would have been like one, I guess we would have had to ask for a variant there, but being that you guys want to start developing that side of town and get businesses there, we figured we shouldn't really mess with that variant right away, because you want people to have storefront properties like you have down in the old town area. Let's see here. A little nervous, might have forgotten a few things. Do you guys have any questions? I'm sure you have a lot.
So I just we don't have any drawings, so, or maps. So I pulled it up on Google. So the
It might
existing,
help.
the
He's a
existing
designer.
home would be removed?
What's that?
The existing home would be removed?
No. The
No,
existing home's gonna stay there, but we're just gonna build the garage right behind it.
behind it.
Yeah, behind it, on the minor, on the Colorado Boulevard side.
And I'll share my screen, so it's up on.
This is kind of this is my first rough draft. I'm cool. W-2 employee my whole life. This is the first time going into, starting a business, so. Scared as hell.
Yeah,
I'm a little nervous, you know?
If this is intended as a membership business,
Yeah.
not a nonprofit.
No, it's gonna be a membership association. And then I gotta figure out whether or not I can get something like this insured, you know? So it's in progress. All the DIY garages out there throughout the state are gone. But doing a lot of the research myself, being, membership associations is something that seems doable and that my insurance company is willing to, consider.
And the unattended hotel is
It's not
basically
gonna be a hotel.
like a short-term rental.
It's not a hotel. So eventually what I would like to do, how this really started about was, I just wanted to get a good garage, have some rooms on top and just take people out on rides. And then I started talking to a few people, I have a great designer, great friend here, and we started thinking about having the clubhouse. And that I guess is one of the codes, I guess, that kind of best fit it. It's not gonna be a hotel. I'm not gonna be a hotel guy. But it'd be like if somebody came in from out of state or even from in-state and wanted to go out on a ride. The biggest difference that I'm finding now is that you can go out on Colorado motorcycle rides, but you ride heavy. You get off your airplane or wherever it is, you go to a hotel, and it's 5 days going from hotel to hotel, so you're wearing all your stuff right there. This is, since Idaho Springs in this area is pretty central located, and man, if you were to go online and type in top 10 highways to ride a motorcycle in, there's gonna be at least, out of all of them, there's gonna be at least 3 or 4 of those highways around here. So you go out, ride for a day, come back and relax. Go out the next day, ride again, and go out another day. So you're not riding heavy, you're gonna be riding fairly light and enjoying the ride. You know, stop and get some coffee, a bag, take some pictures.
Well, and if I can clarify one item on the lodging related use, the reason it's being classified, so it's the C2 zone district does allow commercial lodging, hotels, motels, things like that.
I'm strong.
Now, so short-term rental wouldn't necessarily apply because it's a commercial property, we're operating it in a commercial property, that sort of thing. And so it wouldn't really be relevant here because, you know, of course, short-term rental per our definitions is a overnight lodging use that operates in someone's residence. And so that's a little bit of a difference. And then the other thing that was a consideration that we talked through, would this work in the code, was a bed and breakfast. And now a bed and breakfast
Has to be
would be within
hosted.
a home again, and it's hosted, and of course, Paul,
You don't want me cooking for you.
and he does live on site, of course, but we do have the allowance for, this
So you
untapped.
currently live in the home?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
I'm
you're,
about 17 years in on a 30-year loan.
so you're wanting to just develop part
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the property?
And the proposal is to maintain the single family home on the property, and it would still be maintained in use as a single family property.
Except
So-
converting the front garden to parking.
No, that's, I'm
You're
not
not doing
gonna
that.
do that, but it's an option, I guess, but I'm not gonna be doing that.
So really what we're being asked to do, let me say that again. We're being asked to approve a variance that would allow for 2 paths of travel in and out that abuts not the residential home next to it, but it's on the right-hand side of your house. That abuts a parking lot?
Well, here's the thing, so back when, Mike Hillman was the mayor, he asked me about that property, and I told him the way, as a civil designer, I designed roads and stuff like that, kind of. Whatever, he asked me about the property, and I was able to look at some of the old plans. At one time, there used to be a road there, right next to my property.
Oh.
But Idaho Springs Hotel just exhumed it, and I think they've been there long enough to where basically they own it now. But, right now, there's a mobile home, she's got a big container, just sitting right there.
But that's the side that we're asking
For the driveway.
for the driveway variance.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make sure that there's gonna be a fence between my property and the garage, because I don't want the guys, or guys and gals, sorry about that. I don't want anybody riding down, was it Minor Street disrupting my neighbors. I've had just about every one of my neighbors, at least, Randy, Gary, John and Sarah, they just moved in. They all came in and asked me about it. We talked about it for a long time. And they seem up with it, but I just wanna let them know that it'll be from, was it 8:30 to about like 5. That's the only time I'm gonna be working on bikes. If they work after hours, there's no revenue on the bikes, and really minimizing, if not eliminating, all pneumatic tools. So you're gonna hear, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just for the sake of.
I didn't, but thank you for the clarification.
In the conversation, if you look, I just pulled up on the screen, you know, like to give a sense of scale. Where that blue shed on the right hand of the screen is would be the western property line. The
Okay,
blue shed is on the neighbor's property, and then this fence on the left here next to the shipping container would be Paul's eastern property line.
okay,
And so for context, like where these existing sheds in this half dome structure is approximately where the structure that's being requested to, you know, a 3-foot setback would go. And
okay,
then
so
the
that was my
driveway would
second
be
question.
where
So
the-
that's the neighbor next to the,
That's John and Sarah.
that's the next neighbor
Yes,
next
Joe.
to the 2-story addition. Where the 3-foot setback is.
Right, the neighbor would be where that blue shed and the blue house in the background is. That
Okay.
is the neighbor where that will, I guess, if approved, this structure would be 2 feet closer than is, you know, allowed by the normal development code.
And I don't know if you guys remember a while ago, you had a blight report. Remember that? The blight report?
Don't get us started, but yes, I remember.
My garage is actually on the front cover or the inside cover, so we'd be getting rid of that.
Excellent.
That was a little embarrassing. Then you had the front of my house out on page 13. I mean, somebody had it out for me.
And so, you know, if you look at that set of plans that was included in the packet, or is, I don't know if it's gonna change on here, but you can see here, you know, there's this like drive lane that starts on Minor Street here on the left.
Yeah,
End of the screen and goes through, that is existing, correct? Also, right now, if you look, you can see there is an existing through lane that's not paved, but does provide that kind of, that's where approximately this proposed drive lane would be going. But on the Colorado side would be a wide, you know, widens, I guess, would be that. So yeah, I guess the request that's under review tonight would be this structure that's shown in the foreground on the right-hand side there requires a setback, that side setback from 5 feet to 3 feet, and then the drive lane here that would allow you to access the garage bays and access the property would be 20 feet instead of 23 feet. So it would essentially be approving a reduction in that required driveway.
and the
And then-
staff report was in favor of approving.
Yes, I'm in support, and of course, the caveat with all of this is that we're reviewing whether the structure. You know, I've reviewed it to say, well, would these uses be permitted? But that's outside the scope, I guess, of
What we,
your decision. But, you know, if the uses in theory wouldn't be allowed, we'd say, well, there's no point going forward because use isn't allowed anyway. But if this structure is approved, the next step is actually reviewing the plans with planning commission and council to say, do the uses work? Does it meet height? Does it meet open space? Does it meet required uses and all of that? So yeah, the scope of this is to say, does the structure in its location in the drive lane as proposed meet the criteria and should it be approved?
So Dylan, looking at the photo of the new structure, is that second floor cantilevered over the garage into the setback space? Or is that plain, does that wall plane with the garage?
To the front,
No,
setback?
where the garage doors are.
Oh, it does cantilever out to the east here where it kind of says 5-foot overhang. That is a cantilever, but it does meet the required setbacks.
So is the 18 foot from the property line to the cantilever or property line to the garage?
At the, on the side,
Yeah,
on the, east side, the
I'm sorry, I can't tell east, north. Let me see.
bottom of
Mhm.
the,
It's 20 feet from the garage door to the property.
right.
So it's only 15 feet from the cantilever then.
Correct, yeah, and the side setback on that side of the property is 5 feet, so it does meet that requirement. So the only setback, as you see here, is the 3 foot on the top here, which is the west side of the property.
And the neighbors,
I did not hear from anyone during the public notice period. And I don't see it, so anyway, we could get public comment.
Like I said, they've come and talked to me, and just to be sure, this is a maintenance club. I don't need permission, this is not gonna be a biker club, you know what I'm saying? They may wanna show up and maybe sign up for it and maybe learn to work on their bikes, but the colors get left on the street. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you don't. This is not a gang.
I have no particular issues
okay.
with biker clubs.
Okay.
Neither do I.
My mother might have a different opinion, but I've had a real good time.
Chad may wanna join it.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, it's just getting like-minded people together. Myself personally, you know, drinking gets expensive and I'm not hitting on anybody, nobody hitting on me. I'd rather hang around and just, you know, be with like-minded people working on bikes.
Yeah.
I don't see any objection based on staff report and the drawings. And it does not appear to be impacting the neighbors in a significantly negative way or any negative way, really.
Yeah.
So I don't see a problem with it.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe, do we have any other questions for Paul or?
Again, I'm not gonna allow the bikes to
So how
go
much
through
does
Minor
this cost
Street.
a year? No.
Was that?
How much does it cost a year?
Well, I'm trying to working out the numbers here, but will it be one membership fee, just you join it, or will it be the one for the garage, one for just getting coffee? You know, I wanna have like a little bistro up there, and I'm talking to a lady at, Silver Plume, the little coffee shop up there. That's about the size that I'd have it up there. And, so you don't wanna pay the big prices there at Starbucks and wait in line for 40 people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is
okay.
gonna be your easy part. The harder part's gonna get all the fire separations, all that on the actual construction, on the separation of the deal. So you're in for a little bit more.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, like I said, I originally wanted the garage up against the house, so I had a parking lot. But I guess you guys wanted storefront properties. And so
Well-
that's kind of why this is designed this way.
Yeah. You know, you'll have fun with safe build, so. All right.
As a neighbor, can I?
Well, let's
Oh, wait,
let's
wait,
just.
wait,
Yeah,
wait.
yeah.
We can.
We're in a hearing, so it'll be a official
She's my
action
neighbor.
that we do.
Okay,
Yeah,
do we have any public comments?
Well,
I think we do.
Apparently,
Yeah.
public
There
question.
it is. Yeah.
Paul,
Okay. Can you,
wait.
wait a minute.
Remove yourself from the podium.
Oh, sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Can you,
If we have a public comment, then we need to stand up and name and address, please.
yeah, and then I'll swear you in. So please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Sarah Wertz and I'm at 2126 Minor Street.
Say it one more time, the address.
2612 Minor Street.
just
Sorry.
to the west.
Right to the
The
left.
blue house.
Tell me
in
your
the-
last name again.
Sarah Wertz, WIRTZ.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so just a few questions that I have. While I am full support of everything that is outlined and everything that is planned for the structure and what that looks like and how it moves forward. A few questions that I had as a resident locally is, are there areas that I need to be mindful of as far as creating residential parking that I need to restructure or be mindful of with the city, or anything along the lines of anything in a noise ordinance or anything that I should be mindful of moving forward? So those are my biggest questions. Again, I want to reinstate that with everything that Paula has done and what we've talked about, I am in support of. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the logistics, especially liability logistics, again, parking logistics and noise ordinance and anything that could potentially impact the area of a residential. Although it is zoned as a commercial property, he does reserve the right to have that property used as needed. I just want to make sure that we are mindful and cognizant of all the aspects that could influence or potentially impact the residential area.
I will,
Would that be a function of planning?
certainly, yeah, and I will, if I could get like an email and phone for you, I can follow up tomorrow and with like, here's the noise regulations, here's the next steps in the process if approved, and here's all the, basically to answer all those questions.
That would be awesome. And I'm in all, again, I hope it gets approved, like you have my full support. I just want to make sure that I have all of my logistics in order. I am a PM, so I am, I want to make sure that I'm understanding everything and all the logistics that make sure that we are moving forward in a productive manner.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll wait a few minutes
Still
after the
wondering.
meeting, and I can get you all my contact info and all that, and then, chat more and make sure you're
Oh, yeah.
well aware of what
Detail.
is permitted, what noise ordinance separate processes, and kind of what protections you have, but what also is opportunities. Like that.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Okay.
If you got that, I can actually hand that out to my other neighbors as well, make sure that everybody's on board. I just want to make sure that this is a cool neighborhood. I mean, you're lucky when you go to get a house, you're blessed when you go to get a house with great neighbors. So I don't want to mess that up.
And again, we're very much in support of this and this project. I think it could be a very positive thing for this area, especially that end of town with how the nature of the area of the town has developed over the years. I think this could be a positive impact to grow it into something positive. So I want to make sure that I am definitely in support of you. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding and I have a clear scope of what I can expect, especially as a new mother, and what I can anticipate and what that looks like moving forward. So, yeah, so thank you. Okay.
Thank you. So I'm not sure, Nick, you can probably tell me that there's sometimes, I would like to discuss this a little bit with the members. But there's a gray area there, I know, so.
So first, you want to offer the applicant any chance to respond to the public comment if he wants to.
Okay. Does the applicant have any comments to the previous speaker?
Yeah, did you see your mom?
Other things.
That's it.
I work from home too.
I have one more question, and this may not apply to variances and may be more of a planning issue. I'm assuming that the fire department would, and just our commercial codes would have restrictions on the number of people, yada, yada, that would be like on a party deck kind of thing
Yeah,
at any
exactly,
given
so
time.
they will definitely have for any structure like fire rated occupancy limits and things like that for rooms and for spaces and all the like.
Noise ordinances are, a really good thing to be mindful of.
And we do have an active noise ordinance in place in the city, so, any commercial use is in existence now or in the future would have to adhere to that, and if they do not adhere to that and you get a complaint, obviously, PD code enforcement could certainly enforce on that.
So sometimes we'll approve or disapprove with contingencies. I don't know that, Drew, with you, I think that most of this the previous speakers, her concerns. I think most of that will get through the wash, through the planning code, city ordinances and all that. So, I'm kind of reluctant to say there would be a condition on this approval or not. That's my thought, so.
I don't think there's anything on the particular variance request that we would need to condition. I mean, they're literally just asking for a drive lane width variance, so,
Yeah, and then, so,
and a setback on one side.
Before this, board discussion, Doug, do we need to close the hearing?
yes, I was just waiting for that, and I will close this variance at 6:34 PM. And I asked, I moved to approve the variance at 2616 Minor Street request for side setback variance and drive lane width variance to allow for a commercial structure containing a garage and an unstaffed hotel at 2616 Minor Street. Do I have a second?
One second.
Can I get a roll call?
Yes. John Hatch,
Approve.
Drew Van Duren,
Approved.
Chair Doug Smith.
Approve. Is there any other business? If not, I move to adjourn this meeting at 6:35 PM.
Thank you.
Look at us almost on time.
All right, Jesus Christ, now I gotta do this.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Awesome.